Hello, everyone. Today we have with us Amanda Jordan, Director Digital Strategy at RicketyRoo. Amanda, nice to have you and thank you so much for taking our time.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here and talk about local SEO.
Well, yeah, excited to have you. And, uh, we love the work you do, at RicketyRoo. Your journey yourself, individually has been amazing. Even before RicketyRoo, you have done some amazing work in SEO and local in particular. And tell us more about, the journey, RicketyRoo, your current team, and how has the journey been so far?
Yeah. So I started with RicketyRoo in December of last year. Before then, I was working for a technical SEO agency. And then before then, I was working for a local legal SEO agency. So a lot of my background has been specifically in local from the legal perspective, from the enterprise perspective, and now I'm in from this professional services perspective. So I have a pretty holistic view of the different ways that local can impact your business, whether you're a giant corporation or a small mom and pop business or a legal entity. So that's been really interesting and fun. I love the team that I have right now at RicketyRoo. We're a very close knit team. There's only about 10 of us, and we work really hard for our clients to give them some pretty great results. I would say that we're probably one of the best industries in the professional services space. Of course, I feel that way, but just just from how we treat our clients and the quality of work that they receive from working with us, I have to say that I'm impressed in comparison to some of our competitors in the industry. So I'm very happy at RicketyRoo, and I love local SEO. I'm very passionate about it, just because it's so fun and changes so much. Like, of course, SEO as an industry is always evolving, but local SEO has that added complexity of having to care about geography as a ranking factor and your proximity to the person who's searching as a ranking factor.
Oh, absolutely. And I personally feel that, in comparison to other changes that happen in SEO, it sometimes feels as if like local SEO changes every day. There are so many changes happening,
Yeah.
and so many changes that happened even during the pandemic,
Right.
after the pandemic. And, local is powerful, right? And then, it also comes down to, like you said, the proximity, right? And then how are you tracking the rankings? Are you actually tracking the ranking in that particular location or not? And all
Right.
of that, all of that stuff, plays such a critical part. You're
Mhm.
also speaking at MozCon next month. What are you gonna, what is the topic of discussion at MozCon?
Sure. So I'm going to be speaking about location landing pages because as someone who has worked with like small businesses with 2 or 3 locations and businesses with 200 plus locations, they all have essentially the same problems no matter what size they are. And a lot of it goes back to those location landing pages because they're hard to scale.
Yeah.
They are hard to optimize correctly, and it's very easy to get caught up on the wrong metrics based on what your competitors are doing, especially if they happen to rank for those things. So it's like one of those things that's kind of hard to figure out the right way to do it. There's so many factors involved. And your location landing page doesn't only impact your ability to rank organically in regular search results, but also your ability to rank in maps. So it's more important for that search results real estate too. And then what I did is I looked at, I think, 5 different service industries, and then I crawled the top 10 results for the top 50 cities in the United States. Right. And then I come through all of those, figured out who's showing up the most often for different industries in those cities. And then I looked at their location landing pages and determined what features were showing up the most and which of those features are likely the most impactful in converting people who visit their sites and helping them improve their rankings. It's something that I'm very excited to talk about because there are some very interesting things, and I didn't find anyone including out of like really big retailers that have likely several local SEOs focusing on these pages. And in addition to even having agencies help them with those pages, and none of them are getting it 100% right. Even the ones that were doing the best weren't. There was always something different. There was never anyone who had all the features on one page. And I thought that was really interesting because I've heard so many local SEOs talk about the same things being needed on pages, but somehow it's not translating to the actual location landing pages that our clients have.
No, absolutely. Again, like we'll leave the main details for the conference. I mean, I won't go into like the actual details about what you're going to speak, but yeah, I mean, it sounds exciting, and I'm sure it'll be a lot of value add because like you're right. It's such a complicated issue that needs to be done rightly because let's say for example a business with let's say hundreds of locations. Now how much time should they actually invest in those location pages, like
Right.
what to kind of use as a template, what not to, how to not create doorway pages. I mean, so
Right.
much like comes into picture. What is the right way of doing schema on like location pages? I mean, I recently was doing a test with an agency where, I mean, we just did a simple test where for every location we just added a video of that store manager, kind of doing a walkthrough of the location, and then just doing some like YouTube SEO to it and doing some embeds, and actually helped a lot. So I'm sure
Right.
I mean, you have done much more research, and it'll be a good value, value add. But I'll be looking forward to that, speech as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me how like something can be so important, but there can be so many ways to go about it that are ineffective. And like when you're talking about a business that has hundreds of locations or hundreds of pages, being able to find something that works across half those pages is a huge increase in leads and revenue. Like just finding one simple thing that works really well can make such a huge difference because you're not just impacting one topic or one page, you're impacting your visibility across that entire geography. So yeah, it's something that I'm very interested in talking about, and just even learning from other people about too, just because it's something that's so big and so important to local SEO, but there's no one's quite hitting the mark correctly with how they're implementing it, including these retail giants and franchises who have like so much effort and money that they're putting into these pages.
Absolutely. And I believe this is your first MozCon where you're speaking.
It is. It's my first time going to MozCon, and of
Okay.
course, my first time speaking at MozCon. So, yeah, I'm not taking the easy way. I'm doing it all at one time. So I'm really
Well,
excited, though.
well, I'm sure you'll add a lot
Yeah.
of value to the people attending that.
Thank you.
Talking about like these individual location pages, or even like a business with just one location. The Google Business Profile becomes so important, but also even for that marketer, whether it's an agency doing it or the business itself, it becomes so important to track as well, right? I mean, especially when you're doing rank tracking for that particular location.
Yeah.
Like, what are your go-to tools for rank tracking? Like, what do you recommend? Like somebody doing rank tracking specifically for the local SEO.
Sure. I think if you want to track over time, Lightspark is great for that. We use their rank tracking to track our clients' rankings in specific geographies over time. Bright Local has a great tool for one-off checking tracking, and they also have a map tool where you can see how well you rank within, like you can choose. So you can say within 5 kilometers of my business, this is how I rank in these different areas. And these are the competitors who outrank me, right? I'll consistently rank better than I do for these different areas within 5 kilometers. So it was great for figuring out who your true competition is for your like true most important keywords. and figuring out what the differences are, because it'll show you the number of links they have and the number of reviews they have in the business category that they're using, because those are all key things that impact your ability to show up in nearby areas, not only your city, but the other ones that you have a chance to reach based on your proximity to the searcher.
Right. Amanda, what are the main changes? Like we talked about changes happening, so often in local. Like, what are the main changes that you have seen like recently? That are like major changes which you would like to talk about.
Yeah. Google is always increasing business categories. I think that's one of the things that often gets overlooked, is that whatever may be the most relevant business category for you right now may change and at any point in time, and there's no big announcement about it. You just kind of have to stay on top of it and pay attention to when new business categories are added, because you want to have the most relevant business category as your primary category in your Google business profile, because that impacts which keywords that you can show up for in search results. So not having that be correct, that is like one of the number one issues businesses face, is when that's incorrect. You essentially have very limited visibility in for search results because of it. So that would be one of the things for sure. Google has also made a ton of updates as far as shopping as well. So now you can see what products are in stock in your Google business profile panel when you're in search results. If you look at, like, usually I think Target does a really good job at it. So any Target you look at will likely have in-stock products there. Google is also paying a lot of attention to images. So if you search for a PlayStation 5 controller near me, if any of those Google My Business listings have a photo of a PlayStation 5, that will be the photo that they show you, not the photo of the front of the store, but the photo of the actual product or service that you're asking about. If Google can understand what that image is of and how it relates to what you're searching for. So there's like a ton of things that Google's doing to make it a better experience for shoppers. Another interesting thing that I've seen just recently, as of like yesterday, is that questions and answers are being featured a little bit more prominently. Some people are starting to see where it shows up, like other questions asked or questions asked about this location, and the questions and answers are being featured a little bit more prominently. One of the best things a business can do is fill out as much of their Google business profile as they can, because all of those features, like Google's making, like you said, almost daily, we're seeing changes being made. So the more of those elements you already have filled out, the less scrambling you have to do to go back and add those things if you didn't add it in the first place. And the better chance you have of visibility. There's a high correlation between better rankings and having a complete Google business profile. So get it to 100%, add photos. If you want to use, Google has a AI tool where they try to tell what entities and elements are in photos. So use that to make sure that your photos are actually giving Google relevant information about your business, so that they can understand a relationship between the photos and your profile. Because like I said, sometimes those images get pulled into the search result because Google knows that your Google business profile includes that image.
Yeah, and I think, like, I mean, I love entities. I think, like entities, it's like, like it's so strong if used properly.
Yes.
I mean, it can actually help a lot in, like, local rankings.
Right.
Right. Like talking about keyword research, right? I mean, keyword research becomes such a critical part of, the process, whether you're doing local or you're doing national SEO. Now, particularly in terms of local, when you're doing the keyword research, now, how do you calculate the value of different, like, keywords? I mean, mainly I'm asking about like an exact match keyword versus a long tail keyword.
Yeah. So intent is going to be very important there, because long tail keywords, especially for local business, especially for service businesses, are more likely to attract a nationwide crowd. If you're asking best ways to unclog a toilet, right? That's not going to be specific to the city you're in. But if you're talking about Plumber, Baltimore, then that person is clearly looking at the intent of hiring a plumber. So like it definitely, the keywords you look at are definitely important. One of the things I like to do for like initial keyword research is use keyword Google Ad Planner, the keyword planner there, just because you can choose the geography and then just see which keywords have the different keyword difficulty in the search volume for monthly averages for those keywords. And then figure out what people use locally, because people call their cities different things. Sometimes people don't search for the city name. Sometimes they do use a zip code. Sometimes they use a neighborhood or a town or even the county level instead. So understanding how people search for their geography. And then there's some areas that have nicknames like ATL versus Atlanta or Philly versus Philadelphia. And just understanding how people local to those areas actually search. And then regional differences as well and terms used. Like, for example, in the US, some people in some regions use the word soda, and some people use pop, and some people just call all sodas Coke. So like just understanding the different language people use for different areas definitely helps in local SEO, because even if you're using what people would use where you're from, it may not be the term that people in that local area actually use for the name of that product or service. And that's true for attorneys too. I think I've seen a lot of times where attorney versus lawyer will vary depend on where you're looking at, because in some places people prefer to say attorney, in other places people prefer to say lawyer, and in some countries they just say barrister, right? Like it can be so different that it's important to understand as much of your market as possible, specifically about your market as possible for those keywords intents that are either transactional or commercial. Knowledge base intent keywords, I think you're for the most part, you're probably fine with anything, but those are going to be the long tail ones that may bring more traffic to the site overall, or may get you more backlinks, but they are less likely to be converting keywords just because the intent is so broad and you can attract people from all over the country or really all over the world.
Right. What are the best practices to audit a website with multiple locations?
One thing you want to do is make sure you actually have your address and phone number on the website. You'd be surprised by how often that does not happen. So like for your website, that would be the number one thing. Number two thing, actually have your reviews visible, right? Your rating, your reputation visible, because that is trust signals. Those are just as important. I find that in local SEO, a lot of times people focus on the keyword part, but not necessarily the reputation part of it, which as local SEOs, because you can only get Google reviews with a Google business profile, some review management and reputation management does kind of fall under the category of local SEO. Because if you have a client that has a 1.9 rating and all their competitors have a 4.5, if they get in the local pack, it really doesn't matter, because no one's going to go to a business that has a 2-star rating when all the other options are much better. And that doesn't mean that it's all on the local SEO to fix those issues, right? But make the client aware if you see a pattern or of like, this is why you're getting negative reviews. These reviews actually impact your bottom line. This is how that relates to your SEO strategy, and making them aware of how that all of those things tie in together. Another is actually mentioning your city that you want to rank in, your key services for that area as well, and nearby cities as well. So I find that a lot of people miss the nearby cities part, because if you have small cities near you and you have a very little competition, you can easily rank in those cities by just mentioning them on your website. And a lot of people miss that. So that's definitely like a good opportunity, is just to make sure you mention the nearby cities within your content. And then I would say the other key optimization thing is internal linking. So finding ways to link to those location pages in your website, because when someone searches for Baltimore plumber, you want your plumbing page to show up for Baltimore. That would be better than having your homepage show up, especially if you offer other services, or having the wrong city page show up. So building the authority within your website even building the authority to those pages within your website can be very helpful. And then link building can be helpful too. I would just not go too crazy with getting links directly to the location pages. But that can also help strengthen the authority of those pages and their ability to rank.
Right. Talking about link building, like what type of link building works, best for local SEO? I understand, you need to make sure that, you have got all the important directories and citations covered. There are niche specific directories, there are location specific directories. I understand that's a major part, but like overall, apart from, like taking care of those basic things, like overall as a link building strategy point of view, like, what is your advice? What is the right way to go about it?
I think for a link building strategy point of view, in addition to getting those Phoenician citation listings from citations, you should also look at what your competitors are doing and understand what their backlink profile is. At RicketyRoo, we've actually built a tool that tries to understand and categorize the links that you have and your competitors have to figure out what type of links they've grown for their website and what type of links you have to figure out how you can catch up with them and improve your link building profile. In addition to getting those key citations, which are like Better Business Bureau, Yelp, TripAdvisor, or any other ones that like apply to specifically to your business and industry. Look at who shows up in search results too. One of the things that I heard in a conference recently is trying not to fight Google, but working with them. So if you're seeing like a directory is showing up over and over again for searches related to your business, get listed there too, because Google clearly sees that they're important and relevant, right? So if there is a very niche directory for your city or for your industry, make sure that you get listed in those as well, because if you get leads from it, great. If you don't, you got another backlink from it. So it's a win-win situation, unless they're charging you like $10,000 a year or something like that. Then if that's the case, then don't get it. But if it's reasonable, it could be worth getting just because you're building up that relationship between entities, right? Because if that's like a known website or organization, you're creating a relationship between you and that organization and the entities related to it, as in the services or products you offer to. So just another way to strengthen that. And just speaking of entities in general, the thing that local businesses get more easily are local knowledge graphs. So make sure you have your local business schema set up on your homepage. That will also go a long way to help you, like even just show up better for branded searches and have a little panel that says stuff about your business instead of having get people linked over there. It gives you a bit more of credibility with Google as well.
Absolutely. What about visual content? How can visual content be used, productively, especially for local SEO?
So this is actually part of what my MozCon talk is about too. And it's about using first-party content, third-party content, and user-generated content to make better landing pages. Some of the things that I see that clients miss out on a lot on is that they have a ton of first-party data. If you're a plumber, you know what issues are coming up more seasonally because you have a CRM where you have all the information about what areas people are calling from and what issues they're having. You can use that data to put together infographics or interesting information to put on those location pages that are like unique, right? That if it's specific to that city, those areas are specific to that city. You can say the most common issues in our plumbing issues we see are X, Y, Z. This is another thing that retailers often do well with, like Target and Home Depot will show you things like things that people have recently been buying in that area, right? Or popular products. And that's just another way to have unique content. And then also another conversion opportunity because maybe someone sees something that they want and they click on it and they buy it just from seeing it on that page. Another thing is if you're a franchise or even if you're not a franchise and you just have multiple locations, make sure you interview your staff, send out like a Google form and get the information from them directly about the business. Like ask them questions just so you can get that unique content that comes from a person. And you can just add that to your pages and boom, you have more unique content. Testimonials are a super easy way to get unique content. Allowing users to leave comments on some pages is another way to get unique content. And then, of course, always take advantage of FAQs and questions and answers and adding them to your pages as well. That is something that is becoming bigger and showing up more often. That's something else I saw recently, too, in a presentation, that questions and answers, and people also ask, are showing up more often in search results. So like answering those questions about, especially if you can get city specific on those pages, can help you out a lot in visibility, and include the schema markup for FAQs too when you do that. But there's so many different things that you can do to just get unique content. One of my favorite examples is that Orkin, who is a pest control company, on each city page, they have like a banner that shows the most common pests in that city. So like they're using that data to provide something unique, and then you can link and go to those pages. So it's internal linking opportunities for those pest control pages too. So they're using those pages to provide. They're using the data they have about each city to provide unique content for those city pages, and then provide another internal linking opportunity as well. And then coupons, of course, is too. So coupons is definitely something that you can add to make your pages more unique. And if you have regional or city-based coupons or location-based coupons, even better, because then they're unique on each page. I think one of the most successful things I've seen, though, is doing the survey, where you just ask your employees or your team to provide the content for you. And then that's much easier than having someone go through and try to write a slightly different version of a few sentences across like 200 times.
Right. Talking about content, what are your thoughts on using content generators, AI?
I think for very basic content, like product descriptions and things like that, where you can lead it a little bit, they can be useful. But I would not depend on them solely to turn out the quality of content you want. I think they're great at generating specific, like if you can prompt it correctly, like this is the question I want to answer about this city, then they can be very useful, especially for FAQs. I think that's another thing. Like it essentially can search like Google does. Like it's like it can just find the answer for you, and then you just copy and paste it. It will find some of these tools will find studies like and reference them in the content for you, and you can link to the study, and there you go. Like just to make sure that the data is correct. I think there's some uses. I don't know if they're to the point where they can completely do a location page, but for getting variations of paragraphs, say if you're answering the same question, you look up FAQs and the same question shows up over several cities, using AI to generate different versions of that answer is perfectly fine. I don't see an issue with that. I just find that most of the time AI still needs a human hand for editing and making sure that it's right, because it'll sometimes add information that may not be true, but then you put it on your website and now you're responsible for providing a product that you do not have, because it says that you have this in 6 different colors and you only had 2 and you did not tell it you had 6 different colors to begin with. So like things like that, like it may infer information or add information that is not necessarily true. So it just needs a human touch to finish it off, but it definitely can cut down on the amount of time it takes to write content.
I understand. I understand, you should update the Google business profile, whenever you have a new information, or, like as regularly as possible, and have unique content there. But let's say, now in local businesses also, there are businesses where, they might not have like new content every time, or, like a lot of changes are not happening. So the only thing they might try updating is reviews, right? But as a strategy, like do you follow a thumb rule where you would still advise, the client to, let's say, like updating Google Business Profile, let's say every 3 months? I mean, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say every 3 months. Every 3 months, I would look and see if there's any new relevant categories for your business. Check your photos because customers can add photos and they can just be left there. Like check your questions and answers because anyone can leave a question or answer, including competitors. So you don't want to leave a customer question unanswered and have a competitor go in and answer for you, or leave it unanswered or have another customer answer it incorrectly. So there's like so many risks involved with that part of it in itself. And then check your business description and see if there's anything you can do to improve it. And then another way to get more consistent updates is using Google Posts. Essentially, if you don't have anything specific you want to push, like there's no sale or specific event going on, use it like a social media channel and just schedule some out and put them in there just so it shows that there's someone is actively thinking about the Google Business Profile and making changes to it. But every 3 months, I would at least check questions and answers, check your photos, and check and see if there's any new business categories.
Right. What are your thoughts on local search ads? I mean, they are, like becoming popular now. I mean,
yeah. I mean, like any SEO, I don't necessarily like ads. They're not my favorite.
I understand, but
yeah, and they are starting to push down people who earn their 1 through 3 spots in maps.
And they've gone up. I mean, like last 1 year, I mean, I'm seeing like local search ads going up, as compared to when they started.
Yeah. And they're expanding which categories can also have local search ads too. I think it's more of a pay to play thing. Like it's like who can get there the quickest. I think there's still ways for SEOs to help with that though, because it also shows your rating and number of reviews. So if your reputation is terrible, it doesn't really matter how much you pay to get up there. No one's going to call you. So making sure that your reputation is solid is still going to be important. And that's something that the SEO team can provide insights on, at least based on just what they're seeing on their side, and actually help the SEM team with getting the customer to buy in on that, right? Because you can say, like, not only is it hurting your ability to convert leads from your LSA, your local search ads, but it's also hurting your ability to rank well and get leads from SEO as well. So it's an opportunity for SEM and SEO to work together to make recommendations as well.
Right. Talking about reviews, like we know like how much important reviews are, right? Even in like our discussion so far, we have talked about reviews so much.
Yeah.
Like, is there any, I understand, like the main thing is that, like you have to get your actual clients do a review for you. But like, is there any tool that you recommend or use which helps manage those reviews properly, or, helps these local businesses to actually do a good job as far as review management is concerned?
So GatherUp is a great tool for that. And there's a free one that I've used multiple times before too. And I think it's by 2 Octobers. Let's see, Google Review Management, which actually helps you Post-O-Matic. That's what it's called. And you can schedule posts through it. You can retrieve your questions and answers and respond to them through it. And you can also get all of your reviews and respond to them through it. And it's free, which is amazing. And it's a Google Sheet add-on. So you can do it straight through Google Sheets. The good thing about tools like GatherUp is that you get additional information like sentiment and things like that. So it gives you more, and it helps you with also getting the reviews. 2 October, the Post-O-Matic tool is great if you are trying to get the work done, but it doesn't give you an analysis of what it's seeing. But yeah, essentially with most of my clients for getting more reviews, the goal is just telling them to ask more. I had a client that is one of the biggest energy companies in Texas, and every brand they had, except for 1 or 2, had a 2.1, 2.3 average rating. And we got that up to a 3.9 in about 3 or 4 months. And all we did was start asking in chat support to leave a review of like once they were done. That was it. There wasn't any like magical thing. There wasn't some crazy tool that made it happen. It was just being intentional and asking for it. And that made a big difference for them. And we didn't like review gate or anything. And review gating is limiting who can leave a review by trying to filter out people who will leave a negative review. We didn't do anything like that, and it still worked. So just asking a lot of the times is enough. If you ask, you'll get the positive reviews, maybe some negatives too, but that's just an opportunity for the business to learn how they can improve and provide a better experience for their customers.
Right, right. I mean, apart from like, normal SEO techniques, I mean, like for local businesses, what would you advise, like what would be the best way to use social media? Like, again, social is like a very tricky part where, like, how much should you do? How much content to create? How do you measure it? So for local businesses, I mean, how do you advise to go about, using social?
I usually most of the clients I have like their own social team. But I think social is extremely important in that local SEOs often do not realize how much it plays into the part of what they're doing. Like one, Facebook is a citation, but it's also a social media platform. I would say the same for Yelp. It's kind of a social media platform in addition to being a citation, and making the most out of those opportunities to connect with customers. The clients that I've had be most successful use their social media as an outreach platform, right? To answer questions, to get feedback, to point people to where they can get information on their website. It wasn't just posting content and seeing how it goes, but using it as an actual community building tool to improve brand awareness and engagement as well.
Right. Amanda, any special advice that you would like to give our audience that they can implement and gain benefits from?
My special advice is the advice that I try to follow all the time, which is test and verify for yourself. Don't take anyone's word for what works and what doesn't work. Find out for yourself, because there are so many different ranking factors and balancing done between you and your competitors, that what may not have worked for another client or what has worked for another client or website may not really apply to what your situation is. So don't take anything at face value. Find out for yourself how impactful it can be.
Right. Amanda, in the end, I know we are short on time, but in the end, I like playing a quick rapid fire round of 3 to 5 questions. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Yep, let's do it. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
One subject you would like to learn more about?
Python. I want to learn more about building tools.
Right. What is your go-to lazy dinner?
Go-to lazy dinner? Oh, shrimp tacos.
Oh, amazing. A night in or a night out?
A night in.
What is your last Google search, if you remember, or if you can check?
2 October's Google Review Manager, because I can't remember the name of Post-O-Matic.
Yep. You got me there. Anyways, well, Amanda, I mean, it was amazing to have you. Some really good knowledge bombs. We were short on time, but definitely, I wish you all the best for MozCon, and we'll try to get you for another episode for some more local SEO knowledge bombs.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.